Hi, Jody Hardesty with Empowered Heart Connections. Many times I've seen couples devolve into conflict when we get stuck on the semantics and perception rather than trying to find a resolution or repair the conflict. So this can happen in many ways, but often I see this happening whenever couples are really stuck on words that may be triggers from the past. So for example, sometimes whenever couples are fighting over words, they're fighting over words that have had some sort of trigger or significance in perhaps childhood trauma or perhaps ex-relationships, but they've interpreted these words to mean something different than what they are meant to mean. So, for example, sometimes whenever couples are having a conflict and one of them says, "You're so angry, why are you acting that way?" And one person flies off the handle and they're totally upset, and it doesn't really make sense why they're reacting that way. It can mean that one person is interpreting the language or the feeling word in a way that is maybe not so helpful. So, for example, sometimes people interpret emotional words to mean something other than they are. They've been used against them in the past. For example, maybe angry to them meant that that was when mom was throwing things as a kid, or that dad was super rageful and maybe out of control, or my ex was really out of control and I felt powerless, right, whenever they said they were angry. And maybe they use that as an excuse that I'm angry so that I can act out of control and be unsafe, and have maybe interpreted that to be a behavior that's unreasonable. So when they are told that they are acting angry, they're associating that with that translation, that in the past, whenever someone acted angry, that meant they were out of control or abusive, or they were behaving in a way that was irrational and unexpected and unsafe. And so when you tell me I'm angry, I think you're calling me abusive or crazy or bad or wrong. So I have a hard time hearing that word, right? So if that was my interpretation, I would have a hard time hearing that word, even if it was necessarily not necessarily meant to be an attack, right? So if you're saying to your partner, "Hey, you seem really angry right now. What's going on?" And they're hearing, "Oh my gosh, angry, crazy, abusive, that's not me." And so they're automatically going to be defensive and disconnected from being able to hear and validate what that means for you. So recognizing that if you're having a conversation about something and it's using an emotional term and it's triggering a extreme reaction that does not seem connected to what the conversation is, that you might be having a difference in semantics and understanding what language has been interpreted with those words. So this can happen with all kinds of emotional words, even sad, depressed, anxious. All of these we've all interpreted in different ways and may have different context for what that means in our lives. So when you're talking to your partner and you're saying, "Gosh, you're so anxious right now," they may not feel like that connects for them. That may be an interpretation that seems extreme for them. Maybe for them it's just, "Oh, I'm just a little nervous," or maybe anxious means that they're out of control or powerless or crazy. I hate to bring up that word, but a lot of times people have interpreted over the years that when we have emotions that they're crazy, which is absolutely incorrect. But many people continue to reiterate that if you have an emotional reaction, then you must be crazy. And that can be really detrimental to how we interpret emotional reactions. So making sure that we break down what that looks like for us is what does it look like to be angry? Well, when I say you're angry, you just seem like you're kind of having a bad day and you're upset with me, right? That's a whole lot different than maybe what the interpretation was, is, that I'm an out of control person and I'm abusive, right? That's not what I meant. I meant that, you seem frustrated, right? And it may take learning to turn down your language a little bit so it's less intense. As a coach and therapist, I try to use the most minimal word to guess what's happening with emotions whenever people are feeling emotions. Like if someone seems really angry, I might start at, "You seem a little upset. Is this upsetting for you?" So to really kind of warm your partners up a little bit, especially if you're not familiar with how they're interpreting emotional content and how that translates for them, to really kind of soften as much as you can. I mean, obviously you don't jump straight to, "Wow, you seem enraged," right? But you can start even softer, and people will correct you if you're wrong. So to recognize that, hey, if I say, "Gosh, you seem upset," and they're really sad, or they're really okay, and maybe they're just being quiet. Like those are, if you can start it with a neutral kind of conversation, then you're less likely to create more conflict whenever you're coming at somebody. And obviously, we've talked a lot about I statements, but coming at them saying, I'm a little worried. It seems like I'm feeling like you're upset. Is that accurate? Or I'm just kind of struggling here because I sense that you're upset. Am I guessing that correctly? Rather than, boy, you're really pissed off, right? You don't really want to go to straight to the harshest interpretation, so that people can feel open and safe to be vulnerable with you. So recognizing that semantics, especially around emotional content, can be one of those triggers and can create a lot of conflict in a situation that doesn't necessarily need to. So navigating those emotional words carefully, and really understanding what your partner feels about that language, so that you can navigate conversations with looking for a resolution to the conversation rather than continually escalating. Another issue is perception. So perception is reality, unfortunately, for most of us. We believe that our experience is 100% accurate, and if someone else has a different experience, then that must be completely inaccurate, right? Which is difficult because in most emotional contexts with partners, we have some variability in what's actually real. So this is complicated because obviously, there's not a completely alternate version of reality, but you may have a difference of opinion when it comes to your perspective about how the conversation has gone. So what I see people getting stumped up on along with semantics is this, you said this, no, I said that, no, you said this, no, I said that. And they get into this debate where they're endlessly arguing over what they said or didn't say, rather than getting to the heart of the issue and really resolving, like, okay, okay, let's agree to disagree. I think I said it this way, you think I said it that way. I think you said this, and you think you said that. Well, let's let that part go, and let's get back to what the real issue is. Is it really important to debate over who was right or wrong with their languaging, or do we really need to go, okay, what's behind this issue? So say, for example, you're arguing about dishes. This seems to be a popular thing to argue about. Is you come home and your partner's not done the dishes, and that's really a tough thing for you. Like, you really feel chaotic if the dishes aren't done when you come home. So you come home and you go, the dishes aren't done, right? And obviously this is not really the best approach. You want to say, hey, I really love it if you'd get the dishes done before you get home. I know, you've got a lot of things that you're doing, but it's really overwhelming to me to come home to dishes in the sink. Can you help me out with that? Right? Because when you come home and you say, you didn't do the dishes, they might be interpreting that as, you didn't see anything that I did. I swept and mopped the floors, I took care of the kids, I went to work, and I've already, took the dogs for a walk. Like, you didn't see anything that I did. So you're already debating over dishes. And really, that's the issue is, hey, I need a little help, or I want something done differently, rather than, you're a terrible human being and you don't do anything, right? So you don't want your partner to perceive that you're coming at them in an attack because of their character flaws, right? So even though the dishes is the issue here, that it's becoming about way more than that. So our perception of the situation can make things much bigger and worse than what they really are. So recognizing that, hey, if your partner gets really upset because you asked them to do the dishes, first of all, check with yourself. How was my approach? Was I a little salty with my approach? Could I maybe have said, hey, I really struggle with having the dishes dirty when I get home, and maybe I'll take on something else. If I could do the mopping or whatever, that doesn't bother me as much coming home to. But the dishes are really a stress point for me. Can you help me out with this, right? Because your partner, you want to be able to help you out. You want to help each other out. You want to get each other's buy-in and investment in helping each other out, rather than bullying them into doing what you want them to do, or making them feel obligated because they don't want to fight with you. So recognizing that your approach makes a big difference, but also your perceptions of the situation. So is it really important that your partner does 87 things and the dishes? Maybe not, but for you, it would feel special. It would feel important. And so getting that message across rather than having it be this perception that you don't appreciate anything that I do. There's, no matter what I do, it's not enough, right? So there's creating a whole other issue because of this perception about what the situation is going on. So having it be clear about, okay, first of all, we may not agree about what was said. We may not agree that we approach things in a different way. But what we can conclude is how we get to the resolution point. Like, okay, so are the dishes a catastrophic issue in our life? Absolutely not. But our perception that happens whenever we handle this can be really detrimental. So we need to unravel that a little bit. Is what is your perception of the situation? When I come home and I ask you to do dishes and you feel totally defeated and we're arguing about dishes, what is the big picture? Is the big picture about dishes, or is it about, hey, maybe I'm not feeling valued? Maybe I'm feeling like I need some acknowledgement for the things that I am doing, right? So to break it down and separate the dishes from what do we really want from this scenario? How do we get an outcome that we want? What is it, what's the goal of the conversation rather than just debating to debate or arguing to be right? I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching.